Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Passover sermon with Library Minyan member Debbie Rich.
So it's the seventh day of Pesach, and maybe you looked in your pantry and fridge and thought, some of these ingredients would make an interesting basket for the Food Network show Chopped. Half a jar of horseradish, some hard-boiled eggs, a package of Geffen chestnuts, and the remaining Sweet Concord grape wine, which you've been reusing for years for your haroset. And maybe you'd ask yourself, why is the seventh day of Pesach a chag? Ma nishtana hayom hazeh mikol yemei Pesach. And maybe that would be a good way to segue into asking the four children from the Haggadah to repeat their questions and see what responses there might be at the end of Pesach. So question one, why is the seventh day of Pesach a chag? Well, the smart kid replies studiously, quoting from Exodus 12:16, which states in part, "You shall celebrate a sacred occasion on the seventh day. No work at all shall be done." The seventh day of Pesach is not a separate festival in its own right, as is the case with Shemini Atzeret, the last day of Sukkot. It is the conclusion of Pesach. And maybe that completes the wise kid's response, but it omits a key part. Our tradition says that it is on the seventh day that the parting of the Red Sea occurred. And it is on that day that a great transformation came over Bnei Yisrael. For up until this point, Bnei Yisrael experienced their fear of the Egyptians as they, Bnei Yisrael, felt trapped at the Red Sea, still viewing themselves as subservient to Egypt. Crossing the Red Sea marked a new beginning for the nation of Israel as they marched into the desert, totally cut off from their former masters and oppressors, and began the journey to freedom with all the challenges inherent in living and learning a new way of life. The second question is a rephrasing of the question associated with the second child, the so-called Rasha, a misnomer, and potentially a subject for another drash, but not today. This child says, look, I'm here at the table, and I want to maintain my connection to my religious and spiritual heritage, but it's not happening. Can you help me? And as that question is asked, maybe we should ask ourselves a related question. Have we become so accustomed to the usual ways we observe Pesach and approach Seder that it has become routine? Do we experience this holiday as if we ourselves are really being taken out of Egypt? Are we also needing an assist to make Pesach really meaningful to ourselves? And if the answer is yes, is it too late to address this on the seventh day? Well, you know the answer. No, it's never too late. Some communities have a custom of engaging in all-night study on the seventh night, with an emphasis on the miracle of parting of the Red Sea. Now, I'm not suggesting additional work for our clergy, chas v'shalom, nor am I volunteering to chair a committee to initiate this practice, God forbid. However, there are resources available in our community if anyone is interested in 2027 in learning about this, and I encourage you to report back. The third question is simple. What is this? At the Seder, the tone of the question is one of wonder. Ooh, what is this? By the seventh day, you can imagine that the tone has changed. What is this? More matzah? Will this never end? My cousin, Rabbi Eli Shochet, Zichron Livracha, said Pesach was the holiday he most looked forward to beginning and to ending. So how can we keep our enthusiasm for the next day and a half, assuming you're an 8-day observer and not a 7th-day Dianuist? And I think one way is to think about the tangible things that are associated with the Seder. So I'd like to share a reading called To My Haggadah by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. Over the years, your staples have slipped and pages loosened. Here's a faded purple crescent of ancient wine. There, a smudge from bricks of date paste. But when you speak, I swoon. Tell me again how we were slaves to a pharaoh in Egypt, but the Holy One brought us out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Sing to me of unleavened bread, of parsley dipped in bitter tears. Remind me, if I wait until I feel fully ready, I might never leap at all. Waltz me giddy through psalms of praise. Promise me next year a world redeemed. And finally, there's the She'eno Yodea Lishol, the person who has no questions. Still, after 7 days, they remain silent. Maybe they remain silent because they are awestruck by the magnitude of what they have seen and experienced, and they have no words to describe it. Maybe, though they attended the Seder, they weren't present spiritually or emotionally, and weren't affected by the experience at all, and therefore have nothing to say. Maybe they're shy or insecure, and worry they will be ridiculed for asking questions. So we ask the question for them, Manish Tama, what made this Pesach special for you, your family, the people you shared Seder with? What new traditions will carry on in the future? And what memories have been made?
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.